Hello YouTube, it is Lucidalvar here today with another video, and I know I've been gone for quite a while. It's actually been 1 month if you take a look at it, but we are actually back with some Kenshi lore videos, and this is going to be the first episode of my many to what happened at this location. So if you guys feel like there's a mysterious location, a place where you think is interesting, just leave it down below in the comments below and I'll get around to making a video on it. But without further ado, the first one, and the most obvious one, will be obedience. Now, obedience. A lot say this is where the story of Kenshi began. The story of where the first empire ultimately fell. Now, this is probably one of the weirdest things humans could have done, and it was destroy all these behemoths. And the behemoths were rumored to have been undyingly loyal to humans that had lived on this planet before, or on this moon actually, and that they were just super loyal. They could not think for themselves. All they wanted was the betterment of the human society. So if there was a missile per se coming and hitting and maybe destroying the moon, those robots would take the hit for it. Now, we do not know what caused the humans to, end up melting all these. There are some theories though, because a lot of people do subscribe to the idea that humans thought that we were too irresponsible and letting them fall into the wrong hands could prove catastrophic. And to not blame them, the regular skeletons are a prime walking example of what could happen when you let something like that fall into the wrong hands, because the regular skeletons chose their own path and they became, what they became. They became conquerors, and then they became tyrants, and now they live in absolute silence in the horrors of what they have done. But back to obedience. Obedience is probably one of the eeriest places you could ever go. It gives you a weird feel, like you're walking around and you just see all these big arms flailing around. Now, as I said earlier, people denote this as the actual beginning of Kenshi lore. This is the beginning of the fall of what would eventually happen and lead to us, the sole player, playing in this world and experiencing everything how we experience. Now, we do know that what happened at Obedience set foot in motion a certain amount of plans that ended up happening and unfolding the way history did. But what actually happened here? What happened here was theoried that humans had decided to kill these behemoths. Now, the humans were in a huge war at the time. We often theorize this, and this is an idea that a lot of people subscribe to, is that we were at war with another civilization, and we needed these behemoths to protect us. But after that war, we decided that maybe, these behemoths are, really strong. They can do a lot of things, and maybe we should just not let them fall into the wrong hands. Now, this is where the name gets its name from, obedience. The behemoths were so obedient. They just never said no to whatever the humans demanded. They would do. So they knew that this was a really big flaw in them. Now, what the humans ended up doing was telling them to go into this pit, and they ended up killing them in there. Now, there is one exception that I didn't mention, and his name is Stobe. Stobe is the one exception. Stobe literally did not die in this event, but Stobe rather lived on and ended up dying to a missile that he protected out of not his own free will, but out of the way he was programmed. But obedience was the first actual event that had led down to all these course of events that would happen and lead to where we are today in the Kenshi present timeline. Now, what actually happened there is very mysterious. This happened over 10,000 years ago to 15,000 years ago. This is first empire stuff. It's really ancient, and it's going to be hard to keep records. If you think about back to our world, we don't even have concrete records of, let alone say 5,000 years ago, But it is not to say that the humans were on the right, because after this event, the skeletons ended up revolting, seeing what happened to their brethren. But hopefully you guys did enjoy the video. Remember to leave a like, subscribe, and those are the events of what happened at obedience.